There's a story from a couple years ago here in Massachusetts, what's known colloquially as the texting suicide case. It's a tragic and quite interesting and disturbing story. Michelle Carter was 17 years old in 2014 when, via text message, she encouraged her then boyfriend to kill himself, and he did. Michelle Carter was charged with manslaughter. She was convicted, and the judge said she caused the death of the 18-year-old when she told him to get back into his truck as it was filling with carbon monoxide. She sent dozens of text messages urging her boyfriend, Roy, to follow through on his talk of taking his own life, saying that the time is right and he's ready. And the juvenile court judge, Lawrence Moniz, also sentenced Carter late last week to 5 years of probation in addition to a minimum 15-month jail term, which has been temporarily suspended pending appeal. So this is a very, very legally interesting story for a few different reasons. Number one, the argument was made during the trial by Carter's lawyer that her boyfriend was already determined to kill himself and that nothing that Carter did could have changed that. So the fact that she was encouraging it was not actually responsible for her boyfriend taking his own life. There's another argument to be made as well, which is that if you start telling any random person that they should take their own life, if that's someone who is not already predisposed to do that or suffering from depression, it's not going to make a difference, right? If you go to a person that is emotionally healthy and you say, it's time for you to take your own life, you're ready, it's time to do it, that will have absolutely no impact whatsoever. So it's complicated because whether this type of message would even have an impact depends on the victim in as much as it depends on the perpetrator, because you are not going to be able to, no matter how convincing Michelle Carter could have been, there are many people that she never would have been able to convince to kill themselves. And that is why there are some who see this and say she deserves a light sentence, not only because she was 17 at the time and this is a juvenile court case, but because these are comments which really were impactful because of the emotional state of the victim in this case. You buy that? You think that's a good defense?
I don't know. That's why this is such a complicated case and why there was so much media attention towards it. Let me lay out two more arguments, one from each side. On one hand, you have her exercising her right to free speech, you'd think, because she's not making threats. And of course, she's not the one that killed him. He killed himself.
But the question is, did the messages cause him, which would be the definition of manslaughter?
Because apparently she encouraged him to go back into the car, and he ultimately killed himself via carbon monoxide poisoning.
Correct.
And then there's also this idea of a duty to rescue, where if someone's in peril or they're about to die from a medical incident or what have you, then you have a duty to go and help them. And it seems like she was doing something that was completely counter to that.
And if you and you may not mean physically help, but at least notify authorities that this is someone whose life is at risk here. And in addition to that, there is the layer of her being a juvenile, because her age, it is considered that because of her age, she has a better chance of rehabilitation. And as a result, it would justify a lighter sentence. There's also mental illness as a possibility on her behalf, right? It's hard to surmise whether she truly thought suicide would be better for him or whether she's a psychopath. There are many layers to this, and it is very complex, and people here in Massachusetts have been quite torn, actually, over this case and over the verdict. So
there
I'd be
are two
curious.
principles at odds here, that's for sure.
There are principles at odds, and I'd be curious to hear from the audience about this eventual, not only verdict, but also sentence.